I'd like to introduce you to the Renault A610, which was launched yesterday to a wave of tumultuous silence. And the Venturi, which, though it's been available in Britain for around about 6 months now, is hardly a common sight. Now, they may look completely different, but in fact, they're very similar. They're both French, they're both made out of plastic, they're both very rare, and they both use the same turbocharged Renault V6 engine. In the A610, it has 3 litres, and it's mounted here behind the rear wheels. That is a Porsche trick. Now, the Venturi has 2.8 litres, but the engine is mounted here in front of the rear wheels. That makes it mid-engined, and that is a Ferrari trick. Now, obviously, neither have much in the way of luggage space. The Venturi here has enough room for one squidgy bag. That doesn't have a boot at all. The front bit is all full of fuel tank and spare wheel and gubbins like that, and the middle bit, well, there are a couple of seats there, but the only person who could have any degree of comfort in them is Anne Boleyn, in kit form. But practicality in sports cars like these doesn't really matter. What does matter is the fact that they're both indecently fast. In a race to 60 miles an hour, there's nothing in it. Both get there in about 5.5 seconds, and both will top 160 miles an hour flat out. Given a bit of a tailwind, actually, the Venturi should be able to nudge 170. Now, it may well be fleet of foot, but I rather wish it was stern of anchor too. It doesn't have anti-lock brakes. But let's face it, this kind of driving is of no real relevance in the real world. For that, you need to leave Mallory Park and find a real road. Pity. Out here, the similarities come to a shuddering halt. These two cars become as different as cabbages from thermonuclear fission. The Renault is far more composed, perhaps because it's the result of years of development. The A610 may be new, but the car on which it's based, the Alpine, is as old as the hills. It's a bit of a worry having that big engine slung way out at the back where it can act like a giant pendulum, poised and ready to fling you off the road if you go round a corner too fast. But in fact, the A610 has a seemingly boundless supply of grip. In many ways, it's just like driving a fast saloon car. And that view's kind of reinforced by the interior, which I think is just a bit too normal, a bit too like any other Renault. And when you're just pootling around in town, something the A610 is very good at, incidentally, you can't help feeling that it's just another car from just another large manufacturer. What you really need to convince yourself otherwise is an open road. Once in a while, you need to press the loud pedal down just to remind you that you're in something just a little bit special. However, it's not as special as the Venturi. More composed, yes. Easier to live with, sure. But more special, no way. This car is worth the money for its innards alone. And there's no point hunting behind the facade for evidence of kit carishness, because you won't find any. This is one of the finest interiors I've ever been in. You can just tell that it wasn't the result of some corporation think tank. It's obviously been crafted by a team of enthusiasts. Now, the switches, they're all straight out of a Citroën, and there are a lot of them. But they look so right. The leather, all hand-stitched, and the last time I saw this much, I think I was in a milking parlour. And then there's the wood. It just looks so good. It's absolutely magnificent, but it is not quiet. At anything above 3 miles an hour, there's an incredible shriek from the turbochargers, so refinement is not a Venturi's strong point. What am I talking about? At least when the turbo's whistling, you can't hear a rather irritating squeak from the dashboard. But better than that, it even drowns out Gary Davis. I've already said the Renault A610 is a bit too composed to be a sports car. Well, this wailing banshee of a machine is not. It's just plain good fun. They're forever prattling on in the car magazines about how a good steering system talks to a driver, letting him know exactly what the front wheels are doing. Well, this isn't talking, it's yelling at me through a megaphone. Couple that to the car's tininess, its perfect mid-engine balance, and the noisiest 260 brake horsepower this side of a bike Grand Prix, and you have one pretty spot-on sports car. Trouble is, at nearly 50 grand, and that's post-budget, it ain't what you'd call cheap thrills.